Worries.
I think we're going to Senator Molan.
Okay, I'll hand over to Senator Van.
Thank you very much. As you may or may not be aware, I was in Ukraine and in August and went down to Donbass to see the Bushmasters being used in action and got to speak with the troops. And it's an awful lot to be learnt. So I hope those lessons are being taken up by ADF. While I was there, the last confirmed, or there was 13 in country where I was, and there was another 12 delivered in the west of Ukraine the day I was in Donbass. I know you can't say when, but can you confirm any more than those 25 have actually been delivered in country? Or are they sitting outside in Poland or Germany or somewhere? Because I cannot find either from my sources in country or elsewhere that any more have been delivered.
But Senator, I'll answer as precisely as I might be reasonably able to. Of the original 60, before the government's announcement of the additional 30 Bushmasters, more than half of the original 60 have moved.
That's roughly what I thought might be the answer. Understanding the needs of the Air Force and the limitations on C-17s, given that number was what we promised, let alone what this government promised, is there not a way to speed them up that delivery? I mean, I know at least 40 have been delivered to Amberley, but since the time they've been there, we could have put them on an LHD and got them there. Is there any other alternatives to?
Senator, we are using both a combination of military airlift, the C-17s, and contracted airlift to get the flow rate right into Ukraine, matched to when they can receive and employ them, and our ability to prepare the vehicles to be able to move.
Thank you for that, Vice Chief. The demand on the ground for them is urgent. Anyone there will tell you that. The commanding officer of the 80th Air Assault Brigade, who I met with in Donbass, was disappointed at that stage only having 30, because that's only mounts half his brigade. 90 mounts 1.5 brigades. So by my calculation, we should be sending they would like at least 3 mounted brigades. I would call on the government to consider sending more, because I know those requests have gone into government, and I'd like to think that they would be paying some attention to those requests and following up on that. As to modifications, one of the things that they make a number of modifications in country. One of them is putting armour over the fuel tank. Would we consider doing that for them before sending them over?
Senator, Major General Andrew Bottrell, Headland Systems Division. We work closely with both Army as the capability manager, but also with Talis, as we have done over a number of years. There's been extensive modifications to the vehicle. They've typically been driven by both the lessons we've learnt from operations, but also for the projections with where we propose to use those vehicles. They are a protected vehicle, so they are not intended for use driving into battle. They are designed for protected mobility through a conflict zone. So that hasn't been a requirement for us to date. We are keeping a track of the way where we can get information in terms of what modifications they are making, which both informs what we might provide them in future variances as well. So we are keeping a track of it. We're conscious of that.
I couldn't agree with you more, Major General, and I think that strengthens Chief of Army's requests for IFVs, so that we don't send our troops into battle if we need to in Bushmasters. One of the other things that they're they think they need a lot more of is wheels and tyres. Is that something that we're considering sending along with them and other sustainment material?
Senator, we have already mobilised a repair parts package, but we're also exploring options for support through means closer in Europe. So there are a number of options that we are actively exploring in that space as well.
Okay, thank you. There is obviously if we're planning on sending them 10%, there's obviously room in our fleet to send more. And given, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Major General, but the last ones came off the Talas's line about 10 years ago. They're an ageing vehicle. Are we looking at replacing the Bushmaster? What is the life of type of Bushmaster?
Talas is still producing Bushmasters. They've got other customers elsewhere in the world. So we work very closely with Talas about their workforce. In fact, I only met with the CEO of Talas in the last couple of days to discuss some of the implications for where they are going and what future options might exist as well. So those decisions haven't been taken. That's a combination of decisions for Army and government. So and I'm responsive to those, but very acutely aware of Talas's workforce and trying to keep that at a point where it continues to be viable for the future.
If I could ask you to remain so and reinforce the importance of that to government, because as you're aware, Hawkeye's finished being built there now, so that workforce is maintaining that or losing it and going into another valley of death in another capability would be a shame. Thank you, Chair, for your indulgence.
That's okay. Thank you very much for that line of questioning.